Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Donnie Benfield here and with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the iPhone X. As I said in my Pixel review that I would be getting one to check out and use, and it's been about a week and a half-ish that I've been using it, and I feel like I've got a good enough grasp on it to talk about it a little bit. I'm going to preface this by saying that I was on the iPhone for years. I always played with Android phones. I swap, in and out, but at the end of the day, I was back on the iPhone always. So 6 months ago, I got the Galaxy S8. I was kind of fed up with Apple a little bit, and then I ended up switching to the Pixel XL, and I was on the Pixel XL for about 6 months. And this is the first time, I had the 7 Plus, and this is the first time I've actually revisited using the iPhone since then. My wife still uses it, but I've been on Android since then and grown to love Android. So this is kind of my thoughts. I'm going to compare it to the Pixel 2 a lot. I'll try not to do it a ton, but that's because that's my main phone right now, and the Pixel XL was my main phone beforehand. So it's easy to compare because that's pretty much what I use day to day. So first off, I want to say the hardware on this phone is extremely awesome. I love it. It's a beautiful phone. The stainless steel on the sides is gorgeous. The screen is gorgeous. I have the silver one, which I call it white, whatever you want to call it, a silver on the sides. Beautiful phone. The hardware is heavy, which I'm okay with. I like the feel of a little bit of a heavier device, but overall the hardware is beautiful. I don't love the look of the camera bump on it. It is what it is. They're owning the camera bump, and that's great, but I'm just not a fan of the look of it. But overall, the device is beautiful. It's typical Apple style. It is prone to scratching. The stainless steel on the sides looks like it could scratch very easily like an Apple Watch. And the back, I've heard it scratches rather easy, so a case would be obviously going to go on this phone, which I was using an Apple case on it. But I absolutely love the size. I've always wanted that big screen form factor with a smaller device. And going from the Plus model phones like 7 Plus, 8 Plus, Pixel 2 XL, Note, those are huge phones, and I like the smaller size with the bigger screen. With that being said, it comes at a price of the notch. So Apple has the notch in the top, and we've heard several things. Everybody has their own opinion about the notch. My opinion of the notch is that I can't stand it. I used the Essential phone. If you go back and use my review, that notch disappeared. It was such a small notch there that I hardly noticed it. This notch is obnoxious, and I wish Apple would have just made a straight bar across the top where the notch is and not let the notch be a part of the display. But me personally, it gets in my way, especially with laying in bed at night. You're looking at the phone. When you can't actually see the phone, it's dark. It looks really dumb. Some full screen videos, the content's gone. I understand what Apple's doing. I get it, but I don't like the notch, and I hope in the future we can get rid of a notch, or perhaps make the notch smaller. The smaller it is, I feel like the least noticeable it would be. But some people say, oh, it just disappeared. Not for me. The notch is very, very, it's there, and it is what it is. So like it or love it, it's part of the device. Face ID tends to be hit or miss also. I set the phone up, it obviously has you do it right out of the box, and I was really, really set back at setting the phone up. I would say at first, I didn't have raise to wake on, so I was having to turn the power button on. I would then look at the phone, let Face ID unlock, and then swipe up. And it felt like 3 extra steps coming from a Pixel device where I just set my finger on the fingerprint sensor and it was over. So I was really cumbersome at first. I was super frustrated. I turned on Raise to Wake. It seemed to be quicker. The Face ID has improved over the time that I was using the device. So it got quicker and quicker and quicker. And I still say it's hit or miss. It's gotten faster, but there's some times where it doesn't get my face, and it's kind of frustrating a little bit. So I would say it fails more than Touch ID, especially if you don't have the phone all the way up to your face. It's sitting down and you're kind of looking at it. It won't get you. There's several things times that it frustrated me, and then I would put in a passcode or turn it off, turn it back on, then hold it up to my face. So I feel like it's good, and I would like to have a fingerprint sensor also in the place. I understand that it's good not necessarily having both in all circumstances, but it will get better in the future, and I see some promise for it. When the times it works awesome. like when buying apps and logging into bank account information, it's beautiful. I mean, it's almost seamless. It just does it, and you're like, wow, that was over. And there's times when you unlock your phone also where it's so fast that you didn't even realize that Face ID was working. Then there's the time where it doesn't. So Face ID, it's a good start. If you really like the fingerprint sensor, I don't know. It's one of those deals you might have to make the choice between 8 Plus, versus the iPhone 10. I was also super frustrated at using this phone with the gestures. At first, the swipe up to go home, the multitasker. I was used to the double tap, and although I haven't used an iPhone it's been, like I said, 6 months. I was coming from Android, so it's a little bit different take. I feel like maybe an iPhone user coming from an iPhone 6 or 7 or even 8 going to this phone maybe would be less of a problem because they're using it every day. Or it could even be more. I know it could be both ways, but for me it was very frustrating. The swipe up, the multitasker, I couldn't get it to work right, and I was always going back and forth. I was trying to use the I forget what it's called, the accessibility feature, reachability, where it drops down, you have to swipe down on the home button. It was all frustrating. So I used it for 2 or 3 days, and I got really mad at the phone, and I took my SIM out, I put it back in the Pixel because I was mad. So I kept using the phone, just as a backup phone for the next couple days, and all of a sudden it got really good. Really good. The gestures, it's like it clicked in my head. The swipe to home was there. I realized that if you swipe up and over, you can get the task switcher faster. It just got really seamless. And I was like, wow, these gestures are awesome. And it's where the fact that you pick up another phone and you're trying to do the same thing on the other phone. So you really have to put in some time, I feel like, to get the gestures down and get the feel of the flow of this phone. But once you get it, it's really nice and works really well. I'm actually shocked. I was almost frustrated at the point I didn't want to use it anymore because it was aggravating me, and then it got great. So just stick with it if you get the phone and you feel like, oh, I can't do this. It can be disorienting at times when you're in an app and you're like, wait, how do I get out again? Because we're so ingrained to a home button or some way to get back home without swiping up. But then once you swipe up, it's great. I do miss a back button. This is a typical iOS problem. Coming from Android, I always have the back button. It's great. That's another spot where I felt lost sometimes, is you can always swipe back to the screen to get it, and sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes you have to hunt for a back button and reach up to do it. It's nice to have a back button. The camera on the iPhone 10 is really good. I'm going to do a separate video on a comparison between the Pixel and the iPhone 10, and you can see much more in depth on the camera. But it's a great camera. The Pixel 2 XL is a better camera overall, but the iPhone 10 is probably your next second. It's a really good camera. I was getting really good shots on it, really good low light. The whole experience of the camera was pretty good. The portrait mode on the front is hit or miss. It will blur some things when you don't want it to, but overall the camera experience is incredible. Speakers on the iPhone 10 are not as good as the Pixel 2 XL. They're really good speakers. They do get really loud and clear, but overall not as good. I don't have another phone here to compare it to besides the iPhone 7 Plus, and they seem to be a little bit louder than that, my wife's phone. But overall they're good. I feel like they could be a little bit louder, but they sound good. Not too many complaints. I guess the only other thing I have to complain about the phone are my normal iOS complaints. Small things you could talk about, the differences in Android and iOS all day. I still hate the app organization. I can't stand it. I don't understand why the apps wiggle and you have to drag them around. They all snap into place, and you can't just put an app wherever you want. That kind of thing is super frustrating to me about iOS. I don't love the notifications. They're decent, but not near as useful as Android. The swipe down from the left to the right, the right you get control center, swipe down from the left you get notifications. That's okay, you become used to using that, but I still don't love the notifications. I feel like Apple has room to improve on that. Another frustration is the apps that haven't been updated for the iPhone 10. So the screen's cut off, it looks like you have bezels. So you go from one app that's beautiful full screen app besides the notch, and then you go to the next app and it feels old and antiquated. So that'll all catch up in time. So that's a small complaint, and it's nothing that would make you not want to buy the phone. But if you're an iPhone person and you really like the iPhone and you've been in Apple's ecosystem for a long time, the iPhone 10 is going to be a killer phone to get if you want to pay the price tag. You know, $1,000 plus tax is a lot of money. It seems to be where the industry's going. They're all in the $800 range. I know Apple has raised the bar here. I feel like they might even raise it more on the next one. We'll see. It'd be nice if they dropped it, you know, a little bit over time. But it's a great phone. I really like the size. I like the size. I like the size. I can't say that enough. That's just a personal preference for me. But if you want to get the iPhone 10, it's not. They're starting to get where you can get them, and the orders aren't so backed up. So go pick you one up if you're that. If you're the Android guy, then I don't know. This isn't the phone that's going to switch me over right now back to iOS. I miss iMessage dearly. It's one of those things that I really like about Apple's ecosystem. But right now, the Pixel 2 XL is going to be the phone that I stay home on for a while. So thanks everybody for watching, and feel free to chime in if you want to tell me anything. And hope to have more videos coming soon. Thanks.